that point, a caution flag that we are heading down a dangerous, dangerous road. Well, we made that point, and they heard us, and we will hold them to it. Also, my friends, feel proud because we accomplished the two important New York characteristics. We got up off the mat after the primary, and we made it a real race when the media had already commenced the coronation. And feel proud because we fought our hearts out and we left it all on the field. Congratulations to Zoran Mamdani. No. That is not right. That is not right, and that is not us. That is not us. Tonight was their night, and as they start to transition to government, we will all help any way we can because we need our New York City government to work. We want it to work for all New Yorkers because our city is the greatest city in the world, and we will unite for New York City because we love New York City. And from the bottom of my heart, I thank each and every one of you. I love you for the fight you made, for the soul that you showed, and the example that you set. New York City heard us, and we will be the better for it. Thank you, and God bless you.
Andrew Cuomo, former governor of New York, losing tonight his bid for mayor of the largest city in the United States. We are waiting now a victory speech by the mayor-elect, Zoran Mamdani, who was declared the winner by the Associated Press. There is his headquarters across the city in New York, and we're waiting for him to come out. We expect it to be any moment now. Evan McMorris Santoro, as we wait, the arms are waving in the air, and the flashes from the cameras have started. The signs are going up. I think he's coming out. So let's go. Let's go to his headquarters. Music is playing for supporters of Zoran Mamdani. They are all waiting for the mayor-elect to come out and address the crowd tonight. He, with a resounding vote, was declared the winner by the Associated Press, getting more than 50% of the vote as it stands right now. Not the whole vote's not in. We don't have 100% yet from the Associated Press, but Evan McMorris Santoro, we got a little bit of a false start there. Looks like the arms have come down. The signs aren't waving anymore. So while we wait for him.
Well, I mean, these people have been patient for a long time for this win. They got to wait a little bit longer, I guess, to hear it.
What did you make of his candidacy and the remarks that you heard there from the former governor?
Cuomo has had such an interesting campaign cycle because, you know, he was sort of out and gone, came back, and everyone just assumed he was going to be the mayor of New York. That didn't happen. He lost the primary, and then he ran a very interesting general election campaign that sort of veered all over the place. Right? It ended this morning. I think he was on Fox News thanking the President Trump for his support. It was really interesting. And in the end, in this concession speech, he took some shots at Mamdani, but then also did this big magnanimity. We're all going to come together. If you need me, if I can do anything, please give me a call. This has kind of been what Cuomo's campaign has been like throughout the whole cycle, which is sort of it can't really decide what it is, right? Is he, a fearmonger about Mamdani? Maybe he can work with him. Maybe he can figure that. Maybe he supports some of the stuff he supports. I think that this is sort of an ignominious end to a long political career. Maybe there's more to come, but I do think that speech, from what I saw, was there's a lot of folks who still want to be really, really angry about this election, and Cuomo wants to give them some voice. While he did also say, to his credit, he did also say, look, we need to all come together and support the mayor. It is clear that there are a lot of folks who are really nervous about this, and Cuomo, I think, was happy to speak for them.
He also thanked Eric Adams, the current mayor, who dropped out of the race. Did he pick up the supporters of Eric Adams tonight? Well,
it does look like, right, as we look at these final numbers, as they become more and more final, that, we talked about earlier about Sliwa's numbers did not come in very big, that maybe that did happen. And I think that, you can look, from what I've seen, from what Cuomo supporters have been talking about today and tonight, you can look at that Eric Adams thing as kind of almost a veiled attack on Sliwa for not dropping out. Their belief was, if it had been mano a mano, Cuomo versus Mamdani, Cuomo would have gotten it. I don't think that the final result suggests that that's true, but this is kind of the story, and they're sticking to it.
We were just showing the numbers while you were talking, and Curtis Sliwa coming in with around 145,000 votes, with 90% votes in. But when he ran in 2021, we heard New York One Spectrum News say he got over 300,000 votes.
That's right. So whatever votes, like I said, whatever votes were really into stopping Mamdani, I think Cuomo picked them up. The idea of a place like New York, which is not a very Republican place at all, a guy coming with just 100,000 votes, that's fine, but that's not enough to really sway an election where the guy who won more than 50% in a three-way race. It's a tough story for Cuomo, but I do think that you're seeing his supporters stick with this idea that they were kind of robbed of the opportunity to have the race that they wanted to run, but they didn't. Whatever happened, they didn't get it, and now Mamdani's going to be the mayor, and those folks have to figure out what they're going to do, right? And because there is a lot of question about, do you continue to have this fight with Mamdani, or do you look at the Democratic Party that has become so enamored with this guy in New York City and try to embrace them? Because it is, in the end, a Democratic town, and you're in a tough spot if your plan is to not be a Democrat.
Is he going to be the face of the Democratic Party?
The Republicans want him to be the face of the Democratic Party. I would say if you were to call up Democrats leaders tomorrow, they would give you, well, we have three good options. We have Mikey Sherrill in New Jersey, we have Abigail Spanberger in Virginia, and we got Zohran Mamdani in New York City. Pick the one you want. We've got them all, right? But I do think that there are Republicans who are going to want that to happen. They do feel like this is a very powerful thing that they can do. But as I said before, I'm not clear on why that's such a great strategy for them. We have not, Mamdani has just sort of been this unstoppable force since he arrived on the scene. And it wasn't that long ago that when Eric Adams won the mayor's race in New York, this was supposed to be a sign, a national sign, that this was the kind of candidate that Democrats needed to pick because it's the kind of candidate that voters wanted. And now all of a sudden, when it becomes Mamdani who wins, is that New York is this crazy outlier place and no one should pay any attention to it at all. And it just goes to show that a lot of times people are just kind of making it up as they go along. But I will say that it's not so much that Mamdani is the face of the Democratic Party, but he is absolutely now 100% the most famous progressive in America. And everything he does will reflect on the progressive movement one way or the other.
Is he the leader?
I don't know if he's the leader. I think that, they would argue that. The AOC and Bernie are still very powerful people. But he's the one with the most sort of actual governing power is Mamdani. And he has brought a bunch of new people into progressive politics. And now he has to carry that on his shoulders. He has to figure out how to actually produce results that benefit his movement and not, stand in its way. I think it's going to be a really interesting time in New York, and also a very, very, very tough job for Mamdani.
Excuse me. If you were a Bernie Sanders supporter during his presidential bids, what are you thinking tonight?
You're thinking that this is what you were saying should happen all along. That what you were saying from the very beginning was, if Democrats hadn't gotten in the way, if Democrats could, establishing Democrats had gotten out of the way, you could have an election about economics and affordability and trying to sort of rebalance the economy in a way that's a bit more fair to people who are really struggling right now. This is the kind of politics that Bernie said he wanted to run, but what ended up happening, that's not the campaigns that he really kind of got to run for president. But there's a case to be made here that this is actually kind of the maturing of that Bernie movement, that folks who were brought into politics by Bernie are now able to be so talented at running it that they can actually create a situation where they can win a race like this. So I think Bernie supporters are looking at this and saying, this is exactly what we have been saying all along.
Let's tease the top of the hour, because we are just a few minutes away from polls closing in California, 11 p.m. Eastern time. CNN is reporting long lines in California with polls set to close in just minutes. What do you think happens here if there are long lines in California on an off-year election for a ballot initiative?
Democrats say that favors them, that this is what they wanted to see, that turnout favors them for this Prop 50, for this redistricting fight. And this is one of those things where the voters are acting in a way that people would not have expected when this sort of thing kicked off, especially in a place like California, right? There were some notions at the very beginning of this whole process, and we haven't seen the results yet. We don't know what's going to happen, but that they would be turned off entirely by the idea of partisan gerrymandering in a place where they really were proud of the fact that they didn't have it as much. But it does seem that folks are either turning out in droves to defend it, which the polls have not suggested that is true, or they are willing to abandon it because they feel like the elections have become unfair, and that the figures are being put on the scales by the other side, and that is not an outcome that anybody would have predicted last year.
We are waiting for the mayor-elect Zohran Mamdani to address his supporters in New York City, and we are just about a minute away from polls closing in California. We're watching closely. Proposition 50. Do California voters say yes or no to redrawing their congressional maps ahead of the 2026 midterm elections? Evan McMorris-Santoro, Proposition 50 isn't just for 2026, though. We're talking about the next 3 elections.
That's right, but it's also sort of a trigger. Like it's kind of this. It's triggered by what Republicans do. It's this whole new approach that Democrats are having to take now when it comes to redistricting. They say they have to take it because of what the Republicans are doing. But we're having this. It is an absolute tectonic shift in the way politics works in this country, because now we are talking about, we just draw the lines, I don't know how many times. We just draw them every year. We draw them every month. I don't know. But there is a situation where Democrats thought for a long time that if they led by example, they showed that, they gave voters what they wanted, which was nonpartisan lines and districts that weren't these sort of crazy, weird shapes, that they would be rewarded for that. And then they're watching the Republicans do something different.
In Texas, it began.
Texas, and now Indiana. A lot of other states are talking about doing this. And there are Democrats, sort of think, to the great surprise, I would say probably if some Republicans who were planning this project are trying to come back and push back themselves.
Well, we already have a check mark. This is the Associated Press calling the Proposition 50. It passes. They're calling it right now, right as the polls closed, 11 p.m. Eastern time in California.
That's a big deal, because California notoriously takes a very long time to count their votes. So that's a pretty good win for them.
The Associated Press has seen enough with seconds after 11 p.m. Eastern time. Yeah,
that's it. This is a huge deal for Gavin Newsom, right? People think is going to run for president in 2028. He put a lot on the line for this, but it also speaks to a kind of conversation Democrats have been having, which is that people really want them to fight. They want a Democrat Party that fights. That's kind of why we're in this long shutdown that we're in, is that the base has been demanding the Democrats fight as much as they can. And Gavin Newsom is suggesting, fine, let's change some rules ourselves. Let's change, let's do some uncomfortable stuff to fight. And obviously the voters are rewarding him for making that decision.
And what does it mean for his political future?
Well, I would say that pretty much all the marbles were on this for him. Had this failed, I don't think his 2028 prospects would be so good. Now that it has succeeded, it's a huge boon for him. And I think it's a big moment to see, he can sort of launch himself from this into a lot of other conversations, because he is now kind of a de facto leader of this fight, right? He has put this fight very strongly to Trump. He's sued Trump a bunch of times. They've fought him in court. And now, he made this deal with these Texas Democrats where they, they had fled the state. They had to go home. And he said, look, I'll do this ballot initiative to make up for what the Republicans are doing in Texas. You guys go home. Big risk. Worked out. So, I mean, that's a good sign. If anybody, if you like Newsom or if you are Newsom, it's a good day for you.
So Texas wants to redraw its maps, potentially pick up 5. California, if Proposition 50 passes, they go forward with this, it looks like they will, then predictions are potentially they pick up 5 in response to Texas.
That's the goal.
And then, as you said, we're showing right now our viewers the California congressional districts. I mean, you can see here 43 Democrats, 9 Republicans currently representing the state of California in the U.S. House of Representatives. Under this proposed new map, 46 Democrats, 4 Republicans, and Cook Political Report saying the 2 of these Republican districts become toss-ups.
Right, and this is what happens with a lot of these district lines when they get redrawn, is that you're not actually moving voters around. At some point you run out of ability to make these things completely partisan. But what's interesting about this is that there's no pretense to any of this. We're going to elect 5 more Democrats and maybe more, because Texas is trying to elect 5 more Republicans and maybe more. This is a thing that if you are a voter and you don't like this, your voting power is being taken away. That's what this fight is. This fight is, we're going to sort all of you into partisan districts, and we're going to have a nice, predictable election. We're going to know exactly what's going to happen. We won't even need to have a night like this. So you can look at these districts, and we can just say, okay, well, they're going to get this many, they're going to get this many. This is a fight that's sort of happening in real time. And as I said, Democrats feel like they have to actually respond. But there is a question of the voters, when they see this map, when it's finally done across the whole United States, what are they going to think about this? Are they going to like this? Are they going to be happy with this? Because, this is a huge change to the way our process is supposed to work.
Well, Republicans are motivated to do this ahead of the 2026 midterm elections because of their margins in the House. You have 219 Republicans, 213 Democrats and 3 vacancies.
And I would say tonight results would motivate them even further, right? Because as we talked about before, historically the midterms do not go well for the president's party. They're trying to change that dynamic with a ton of money that they've raised. They also had some sort of belief that the Democrats were in such bad straits that they could maybe beat them fair and square. Now, I think if you're a person who thinks, well, let's just redraw the lines, let's change the rules of the election, that makes it more likely that we can win, because Democrats may have some fight in them. I think that this gives them, momentum to that cause.
All right. Well, California Proposition 50 passing tonight. On your screen is the headquarters for Zohran Mamdani. He is the mayor-elect of the Big Apple, and you can see his supporters are anxious for him to come out and talk to them tonight. They have been waiting for a long time in New York City. Yeah, he's taking his time. The crowd is warmed up, and we'll bring you those remarks live when they happen. In the meantime, though, let's keep taking phone calls here. Paulette, or actually, let's go to David, who's in Riverside, California, Republican. David in Riverside, California, how did you vote on Proposition 50?
Well, I always vote Republican, which would be against 50. But, I want to say good evening, Greta, and good evening, America. As a Zoran Mamdani, the next mayor of New York City, he is the most dangerous candidate ever in America that I can see to win a major election. I've done the research. He won't deny globalizing the Intifada, which is violence toward all Jews. His father is a professor at Columbia University who advocates terrorist suicide bombing as a legitimate form of warfare. Plus, Zoran is for LGBT, transgender, confused children receiving surgery to deny their gender. He's a radical Muslim, communist, and queer rights advocate in one person. This is a warning to America that we need to return to the God of the Bible, return to the love of America. Be more like Charlie Kirk, who was a great political advocate and Christian preacher, who was assassinated for his free speech rights on September 10th, just under 2 months ago. It's not too late for Mamdani and America. It's not too late constitutionally because he is not eligible to be president. He was not born in America. We have yet to pick someone like Mamdani for president. Fortunately, we have a second chance. America is coming to the 250-year anniversary. We can return to the people we were when we were founded, the Christian people that we were.
All right,
Thank you.
David, there, Republican in California. Evan McMorrison, Toro. Those remarks, something that you heard on the campaign trail during this election.
There was actually a litany of things. It was an interesting set of remarks because of how emotional and powerful it is. And that is what a lot of this campaign has been about. And the caller spoke about a number of topics that have been very potent and powerful for Republicans very recently. In 2024, they tied Kamala Harris to a lot of her past left-wing positions on economics and tied her to socialism. And that was seen as a very powerful move. Obviously did not work in New York City this time. Different electorate, obviously, but did not really work. The argument about trans rights, hugely powerful for Trump and the Republicans in 2024. And as I mentioned, they really went hard at it up and down the ballot this evening and today and over the last few months. They spent a lot of money on those issues, a lot of money in those ads. My colleague at Notice, Oriana Gonzalez, wrote this amazing story about the sort of internals of that argument, how much money we should put into that fight. Those trans rights, it was a huge part of the conversation. Voters rejected the conservative position on that, right? I don't know that they adopted the most left-wing position, but they rejected their conservative position on that. And so, and you talk about, the issue, the Intifada, the Israeli issue, another issue that, as we talked about earlier in the night, another caller called in, voters are trying to shift around on that too. There are a lot of things moving around in politics right now, and I can understand why there is such an emotional and really forceful response to that. I mean, we're talking about very different things. I mean, a super young guy with very left-wing views is now a very powerful person in America, and if you don't like those views, it is definitely scary, but it does speak to just sort of how rapid the dynamics are changing at this moment, right? Because you can think about how many people in America felt the same way in 2024 when Trump won again, right? To hear that coming from the other side, it just speaks to how fast things can switch.
Democratic Socialist versus the characterization that he's a communist. The difference?
A difference is significant. I mean, Democratic Socialism is a program that's more about, well, first of all, Mamdani has distanced himself from the DSA itself. Like, he is a member of it, but he doesn't adopt all of their ideas. What he would say is that what he campaigns on is the idea of like making your housing cheaper, making it a cheaper place to live. There was some stuff earlier on in the campaign, right, where like one of his programs he has proposed is a pilot program where the city sets up some grocery stores in places where there aren't one. This was characterized as, he's going to force you to shop at government grocery stores, which would be communist. He is not trying to do that. He's Democratic Socialist. He wants to provide a different kind of option, a different kind of way of going. But, this is a very powerful word to a lot of people. A communist is the word that the president has used about Mamdani as well. He is not a communist. at least he's not, I mean, I don't know what's in his head, but he's not espoused that he's a communist. But this, you know, this is the kind of characterization that he's had to face, and it didn't defeat him tonight. And we'll see what happens now that he's going to be the mayor.
All right, and we're watching his headquarters in New York City, Zohran Mamdani. You can see his supporters getting addressed tonight and just waiting for the mayor-elect to come out. And when he does, we'll bring you his remarks live here on C-SPAN. We have other candidate remarks as well. If we've missed any tonight, you can find them all on our website, cspan.org. You can find results as well. Dig into the maps on these key races on our website, cspan.org/results. All of it there. And as we continue here on election night 2025, we'll continue to talk about the results in these key races: New Jersey, Virginia, the New York City mayoral race, and the California Proposition 50 redistricting plan that was just declared passed by the Associated Press just seconds after the polls closed at 11 p.m. Eastern Time in California. I can see that at the headquarters there, the crowd is starting to cheer and cameras are flashing here. We'll see. Oh, nope, we don't have the candidate. We don't have the mayor-elect yet. Evan McMorris Santoro.
He wants us to hold out until we're just completely done talking about California. He's very nice. Very nice of him to do it.
Well, California went quick.
I know.
So.
I know. We need to have more time. He has to come out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Who do you expect that is there with him tonight from sort of the progressive wing of the party?
Well, we've seen AOC. She's been a strong supporter of his. Bernie has been a strong supporter, and I don't know if he is there. But we have also seen, you know, some other sort of stalwart New York Democrats who are, you know, from the more progressive wing of the party, but are not, you know, sort of democratic socialists. You know, Jerry Nadler was a strong supporter of his. A lot of folks who ran for mayor against him, Brad Lander, for example, was a strong supporter of Mamdani. So I think you're starting to see, at least from the Democratic Party part, his coalition starting to expand. I wouldn't be too surprised if you saw some of those folks who definitely did not expect to find themselves at a Mamdani rally at the beginning of this thing showing up and being there.
What do some of these members of Congress do where their districts touch the city, different boroughs of New York City? What do they do? Because it's been not only leadership who's been split about whether or not they endorse or support. You've seen the New York delegation also, you know, Democrats, not all of them endorsing Mamdani.
Sure. I mean, Tom Suozzi, a very powerful Democrat, moderate Democrat, he specifically anti-endorsed Mamdani. This is going to be, you know, I think if you're running in some of these districts that Republicans have won in the Congress in New York, they're very happy about this because they're going to want to tie their opponents to Mamdani right and left, and Democrats are going to have to figure that out. I do think this is one of those things that now that conversation is almost more of a Mamdani question now, because now it's his job to help other Democrats win elections. And now, in addition to everything else he has to do, he's got to figure out how to do that, because they're there, they're going to run for office, they're going to say what they have to say, but he has to sort of show that he's not the dangerous radical that the caller suggested that he is. And that way he won't be such a liability to those folks if he ends up being that. But this is the challenge for his movement. And this is what it makes it so interesting to see the next few months. It's a challenge for him is to figure out how to be helpful to Democrats who are like, I'd really rather you didn't come around too much.
Every television booker on networks across the country are hoping they can get him on their program.
I think he'd be very, very busy. Maybe that's what he's doing right now. That's why he hasn't come out yet.
Yeah. It's election night 2025. It's 11:15 here on the East Coast. The polls just closed in California. Proposition 50 has passed there. Democrats have swept here tonight in all of these key races. 26% of the vote in on this redistricting plan in California, and yes has a check mark next to it from the Associated Press, with 62.3% of that 26% vote versus 37.7%. Those numbers will change as the vote percentage changes tonight. And you were saying, Evan McMorris Santoro, that this is super fast for California because it takes a long time to count votes. I mean, think back to 2024.
Oh, yeah. We're waiting all night for these little weeks for these congressional districts to bring their votes in. No, I mean, the momentum was with this pretty much from the beginning. There was a conversation in the very beginning about whether or not this was going to be fought very hard. But when you saw some folks who helped to draw the nonpartisan maps come out and say, I'm sorry, I had to support this idea of redistricting because the Republicans have changed the rules, you could sort of see this sort of building. And again, this was the opportunity that Californians had to push back against the president's agenda. And as we've seen everywhere else tonight, they got a chance to vote. They have done that. I mean, there are a lot of races down the ballot that we have seen where also that has happened. Not everything has been called, but the results have come in from a lot of places have shown that Democrats have just every chance they had to ask someone to vote, those people said, okay, yeah, I'll vote for you because I'm mad at the president. It does seem like that's happened everywhere. And this result about these redistricting could not be any more clearly a pushback on the president. That's how it was characterized by the supporters of this proposition. That's what they said you were getting a chance to do. And in fact, it is what you're getting a chance to do because it's the president that is leading this redistricting push across the country. So this is a chance that you can push back against it. Californians were really, really thrilled to do so, it seems.
Let's go through the key races tonight, beginning with Virginia and the governor's race there. Abigail Spanberger becomes the first female governor of the Commonwealth, and you can see the percentage vote in 95% in her margin of victory. Ghazala Hashmi also on the Democratic ticket. She wins tonight. And then for Attorney General, this race was being watched very closely to see if the Jay Jones, the Democrat there, would be able to get a victory, get a W, and it appears he did. Not as big a margin as Abigail Spanberger, but he did get the check mark tonight. And then moving on to New Jersey in the governor's race, Mikey Sherrill becomes only the second female governor of that state. And then ending here with California again, Proposition 50 passes in California. And let's just go talk about the money for Proposition 50, because according to calmatters.org, the yes campaign outraised the no campaign like $97 million to $42 million.
That's true. I mean, those numbers are very, very big, but obviously California's really, really big. But, there were billionaires that were backing the no campaign too. It's not that hard these days to kind of find money in politics. But yeah, that obviously appreciates the result in the end.
All right. Zohran Mamdani, the mayor-elect of New York City, is out on the stage. He's going to address his supporters. Live coverage here on C-SPAN.
Thank you, my friends. The sun may have set over our city this evening, but as Eugene Debs once said, I can see the dawn of a better day for humanity. For as long as we can remember, the working people of New York have been told by the wealthy and the well-connected that power does not belong in their hands. Fingers bruised from lifting boxes on the warehouse floor, palms calloused from delivery bike handlebars, knuckles scarred with kitchen burns. These are not hands that have been allowed to hold power. And yet, over the last 12 months, you have dared to reach for something greater. Tonight, against all odds, we have grasped it. The future is in our hands. My friends, we have toppled a political dynasty. I wish Andrew Cuomo only the best in private life. But let tonight be the final time I utter his name as we turn the page on a politics that abandons the many and answers only to the few. New York, tonight you have delivered a mandate for change, a mandate for a new kind of politics, a mandate for a city we can afford, and a mandate for a government that delivers exactly that. On January 1st, I will be sworn in as the mayor of New York City. And that is because of you. So before I say anything else, I must say this. Thank you. Thank you to the next generation of New Yorkers who refused to accept that the promise of a better future was a relic of the past. You showed that when politics speaks to you without condescension, we can usher in a new era of leadership. We will fight for you because we are you. Or as we say on Steinway, ana minkum wa ilaykum. Thank you to those so often forgotten by the politics of our city who made this movement their own. I speak of Yemeni bodega owners and Mexican abuelas, Senegalese taxi drivers and Uzbek nurses, Trinidadian line cooks and Ethiopian aunties. Yes, aunties. To every New Yorker in Kensington and Midwood and Hunts Point, know this. This city is your city, and this democracy is yours too. This campaign is about people like Wesley, an 1199 organizer I met outside of Elmhurst Hospital on Thursday night. A New Yorker who lives elsewhere, who commutes 2 hours each way from Pennsylvania because rent is too expensive in this city. It's about people like the woman I met on the BX33 years ago, who said to me, I used to love New York, but now it's just where I live. And it's about people like Richard, the taxi driver I went on a 15-day hunger strike with outside of City Hall, who still has to drive his cab 7 days a week. My brother, we are in City Hall now. This victory is for all of them, and it's for all of you. The more than 100,000 volunteers who built this campaign into an unstoppable force. Because of you, we will make this city one that working people can love and live in again. With every door knocked, every petition signature earned, and every hard-earned conversation, you eroded the cynicism that has come to define our politics. Now, I know that I have asked for much from you over this last year. Time and again, you have answered my calls. But I have one final request. New York City, breathe this moment in. We have held held our breath for longer than we know. We have held it in anticipation of defeat. Held it because the air has been knocked out of our lungs too many times to count. Held it because we cannot afford to exhale. Thanks to all of those who sacrificed so much, we are breathing in the air of a city that has been reborn. To my campaign team, who believed when no one else did, and who took an electoral project and turned it into so much more, I will never be able to express the depth of my gratitude. You can sleep now. To my parents, Mama and Baba, you have made me into the man I am today. I am so proud to be your son. And to my incredible wife, Rama, Hayati, there is no one I would rather have by my side in this moment and in every moment. To every New Yorker, whether you voted for me, for one of my opponents, or felt too disappointed by politics to vote at all, thank you for the opportunity to prove myself worthy of your trust. I will wake each morning with a singular purpose: to make this city better for you than it was the day before. There are many who thought this day would never come, who feared that we would be condemned only to a future of less, with every election consigning us simply to more of the same. And there are others who see politics today as too cruel for the flame of hope to still burn. New York, we have answered those fears. Tonight we have spoken in a clear voice. Hope is alive. Hope is a decision that tens of thousands of New Yorkers made day after day, volunteer shift after volunteer shift, despite attack ad after attack ad. More than 1 million of us stood in our churches, in gymnasiums, in community centers, as we filled in the ledger of democracy. And while we cast our ballots alone, we chose hope together. Hope over tyranny. Hope over big money and small ideas. Hope over despair. We won because New Yorkers allowed themselves to hope that the impossible could be made possible. And we won because we insisted that no longer would politics be something that is done to us. Now it is something that we do. Standing before you, I think of the words of Jawaharlal Nehru. A moment comes but rarely in history when we step out from the old to the new, when an age ends and when the soul of a nation long suppressed finds utterance. Tonight we have stepped out from the old into the new. So let us speak now with clarity and conviction that cannot be misunderstood about what this new age will deliver and for whom. This will be an age where New Yorkers expect from their leaders a bold vision of what we will achieve, rather than a list of excuses for what we are too timid to attempt. Central to that vision will be the most ambitious agenda to tackle the cost of living crisis that this city has seen since the days of Fiorello LaGuardia. An agenda that will freeze the rents for more than 2 million rent-stabilized tenants. Make buses fast and free. and deliver universal child care across our city. Years from now, may our only regret be that this day took so long to come. This new age will be one of relentless improvement. We will hire thousands more teachers. We will cut waste from a bloated bureaucracy. We will work tirelessly to make lights shine again in the hallways of NYCHA developments where they have long flickered. Safety and justice will go hand in hand as we work with police officers to reduce crime and create a department of community safety that tackles the mental health crisis and homelessness crises head on. Excellence will become the expectation across government, not the exception. In this new age we make for ourselves, we will refuse to allow those who traffic in division and hate to pit us against one another. In this moment of political darkness, New York will be the light. Here, we believe in standing up for those we love. Whether you are an immigrant, a member of the trans community, one of the many black women that Donald Trump has fired from a federal job, a single mom still waiting for the cost of groceries to go down, or anyone else with their back against the wall, your struggle is ours too. And we will build a city hall that stands steadfast alongside Jewish New Yorkers and does not waver in the fight against the scourge of anti-Semitism. Where the more than 1 million Muslims know that they belong. Not just in the 5 boroughs of this city, but in the halls of power. No more will New York be a city where you can traffic in Islamophobia and win an election. This new age will be defined by a competence and a compassion that have too long been placed at odds with one another. We will prove that there is no problem too large for government to solve and no concern too small for it to care about. For years, those in City Hall have only helped those who can help them. But on January 1st, we will usher in a city government that helps everyone. Now, I know that many have heard our message only through the prism of misinformation. Tens of millions of dollars have been spent to redefine reality and to convince our neighbors that this new age is something that should frighten them. As has so often occurred, the billionaire class has sought to convince those making $30 an hour that their enemies are those earning $20 an hour. They want the people to fight amongst ourselves so that we remain distracted from the work of remaking a long broken system. We refuse to let them dictate the rules of the game anymore. They can play by the same rules as the rest of us. Together, we will usher in a generation of change. And if we embrace this brave new course, rather than fleeing from it, we can respond to oligarchy and authoritarianism with the strength it fears, not the appeasement it craves. After all, if anyone can show a nation betrayed by Donald Trump how to defeat him, it is the city that gave rise to him. And if there is any way to terrify a despot, It is by dismantling the very conditions that allowed him to accumulate power. This is not only how we stop Trump, it's how we stop the next one. So Donald Trump, since I know you're watching, I have 4 words for you. Turn the volume up. We will hold bad landlords to account because the Donald Trumps of our city have grown far too comfortable taking advantage of their tenants. We will put an end to the culture of corruption that has allowed billionaires like Trump to evade taxation and exploit tax breaks. We will stand alongside unions and expand labor protections because we know, just as Donald Trump does, that when working people have ironclad rights, the bosses who seek to extort them become very small indeed. New York will remain a city of immigrants, a city built by immigrants, powered by immigrants, and as of tonight, led by an immigrant. So hear me, President Trump, when I say this. To get to any of us, you will have to get through all of us. When we enter City Hall in 58 days, expectations will be high. We will meet them. A great New Yorker once said that while you campaign in poetry, you govern in prose. If that must be true, let the prose we write still rhyme, and let us build a shining city for all. And we must chart a new path, as bold as the one we have already traveled. After all, the conventional wisdom would tell you that I am far from the perfect candidate. I am young, despite my best efforts to grow older. I am Muslim. I am a democratic socialist. And most damning of all, I refuse to apologize for any of this. And yet, if tonight teaches us anything, it is that convention has held us back. We have bowed at the altar of caution, and we have paid a mighty price. Too many working people cannot recognize themselves in our party. And too many among us have turned to the right for answers to why they've been left behind. We will leave mediocrity in our past. No longer will we have to open a history book for proof that Democrats can dare to be great. Our greatness will be anything but abstract. It will be felt by every rent-stabilized tenant who wakes up on the first of every month, knowing the amount they're going to pay hasn't soared since the month before. It will be felt by each grandparent who can afford to stay in the home they have worked for, and whose grandchildren live nearby because the cost of childcare didn't send them to Long Island. It will be felt by the single mother who is safe on her commute and whose bus runs fast enough that she doesn't have to rush school drop-off to make it to work on time. And it will be felt when New Yorkers open their newspapers in the morning and read headlines of success, not scandal. Most of all, it will be felt by each New Yorker when the city they love finally loves them back. Together, New York, we're going to freeze the... Together, New York, we're going to make buses fast and... Together, New York, we're going to deliver universal... Let the words we've spoken together, the dreams we've dreamt together, become the agenda we deliver together. New York, this power, it's yours. This city belongs to you. Thank you.
34-year-old Zohran Mamdani, the next mayor of New York City, the first Muslim American mayor of the Big Apple. With 90% of the vote in, he has 50.4% of it. Andrew Cuomo, the independent who challenged him for the mayoral seat, with 41.6%, and Curtis Lewa, the Republican, 7%. Joining us is Evan McMorris Santoro of Notice. And we've been talking about the outcome of this New York City mayoral race. When you take a look at the candidate right there on stage, what do you think about the future of the Democratic Party?
I mean, this is a triumphant moment for this guy, right? He feels, I mean, the power and energy of that speech was just very plugged in. They're very excited. They have a plan. Now he's running into headwinds almost immediately. We saw the White House already post something, a version of the New York Knicks logo says Trump is your president, obviously aimed at Mamdani. Tomorrow morning, the New York Post is going to come out. I think you can see that front page of the New York Post, which is just sort of like, it's just what's in store for him. But
let's just read through this. On your marks, get set, Zoe. Socialist Mamdani wins race for the mayor. Talk about this picture here.
Well, this is everything that Trump and the Republicans and his opponents have been saying about him. This is a communist takeover of New York City. The red apple with the R backwards. This is he has a lot of hard work to do now that he has won. But I do think that when it comes to the speech that we just heard, he sounds like a guy who's sort of aware of this. Like, his movement is ready to have this argument and ready to have this fight. He said in his speech, people who have, our expectations are very high for us, and we're going to beat those expectations. We're going to do this. We know exactly what we're up against, and we're going to try, and we're going to actually show that we can do it. And this is the vision for the Democratic Party that his side of politics wants to have. They want to show that they are folks who can bring a coalition together, win, and then as everybody calls them all kinds of names, they can sort of slough that off and get down to it and get things done that they want to get done. And this is a huge moment for that politics, but also a huge burden for Zohran Mamdani, because everybody is going to be coming for this guy. They want to show that he doesn't know what he's doing, and he's failing, and he's faltering. But he is saying, we're ready to do it. We understand that. We're ready to go. We'll see.
Let's hear from Joseph, who's in Brooklyn, independent voter. Joseph, who did you vote for?
Mamdani.
And what did you hear tonight from the mayor-elect?
He's amazing. And the main thing I vote for him, and I think why most people voted for him, is something that there's no polls out there about that. But there was multiple demonstration, all colleges in New York especially, about the Palestinian in Gaza. And he supported them. So people in their heart, they remember what's going on. Even there is peace right now. People who support weakness people who suffer in Gaza. That's why I think people came out to support him.
All right, let's take that point.
There's been a great deal of polling about it, actually, and it has shown that Democrats in particular, but young people across the political spectrum have shifted away from the traditional way that American politicians have spoken about the nation of Israel. There's been much more skepticism about the regime there. Talks about trying to change the government U.S. policy towards that country. I do think it was a huge sort of door opener for Zohran Mamdani. That basically what happened with this, he was the only candidate who stood up there and said very loudly what the streets were kind of saying about this issue. And that opened the door for him to talk about everything else that he wanted to talk about. I mean, I think it's a very, very important part of his campaign. And I don't know if we mentioned this before, but some of the folks who have worked in this campaign that also worked for Obama have mentioned the idea that this is kind of like the Iraq War moment, that voters instantly believe you more because you have credibility in this issue where a lot of other politicians kind of sound wishy-washy or aren't on the right side. He walks in saying, I believe in the Palestinian cause. And folks go, oh, okay, well, what else do you want to talk about? And well, now I believe you. I think it was a big part of his victory. And it's one of the things that other candidates, Democrats, are taking away from this. You are seeing a number of other Democrats shifting their position and shifting the rhetoric about Israel in the wake of the primary win and just the sheer total of polling that has shown that young Americans just feel very differently about this than their parents did.
Democrats also successful tonight in California. Steve is in Anaheim, a Republican. Steve, what's your reaction to the Proposition 50 passing in California?
Hello, Greta. Looks like you're pulling a long all-nighter here. Okay, well, let me do a little of New York candidate first. He mentioned, because I listened to his speech, he mentioned Guarde. God, I can never say that guy's name right. And but he didn't mention Dinkins. These were two socialist Democrats that ran New York. I forget the third mayor that ran it as well. So everybody needs to kind of lighten up on the communist and socialist attacks on this guy. I mean, we don't know. His speech sounded pretty good, but it also sounded like, he's promising way too much. He doesn't have like an Adlai Addison to implement his policies like FDR did. But we will see. Now, as far as the proposition on 50 that passed over here, looks like we got tronched. It looks like 2/3 of the voters voted for this thing. So, the Democrats can claim that they're for democracy, but they're basically taking all the Republicans' votes that are in the state, and ignoring them. So I don't really think I think it's going to come back and bite them in the ass, to be perfectly honest with you.
All right, Steve saying Republicans got trounced on Proposition 50. 64% of the vote in. The yes vote leading 64.6% of that, 35.4% of those 64% votes in no votes.
Yeah, if that holds, then trounced is the right word. The caller, two things from that call that are very interesting. One, it just goes to show that as we talk about so many folks sitting here, not sitting here, but talking in politics now about, oh, New York, who cares? Guy in California knows a lot about what's going on in New York. And a lot of other people around across the country do too. This is a huge moment in politics, this Mamdani win. It really is. The other thing that's interesting, he mentioned this idea that Democrats are taking away the votes of Republicans in this redistricting thing. He's exactly right. That's what this whole redistricting fight is about. It is about taking individual voters' power away and pushing people into partisan groups to help to bolster one party or another. Democrats point to the fact that Republicans kind of started it this time, and so this is why they have to do it. That's the whole Prop 50's idea. But his notion of, will voters not like this or become very upset about this as they sort of see how this develops, it's a huge political question moving forward. It really, really is, because he's not wrong. They are absolutely trying to say, we don't really care what you believe personally. We believe that you live around enough Democrats that we can just make a Democratic seat over here, and a Republican make a Republican seat over here. It's a very different way of looking at how the House of Representatives is supposed to work, but it's one that's aimed at simply numbers and running our system in a very different way. And I don't know what voters are going to say about it as it plays out. But today what they're saying is Republicans are doing it, so we are also going to do it.
And any moment we're going to hear from California Governor Gavin Newsom, who pushed for Proposition 50. We will be able to capture and bring to you his live remarks here from California. While we wait, we've got time here for some more phone calls this evening. Democrats dial in at 202-748-8920, Republicans 202-748-8921, and all others 202-748-8922. Paulette in Florida, Democratic caller. Your reaction, Paulette, to election night 2025?
I'm so excited and hopeful and prayerful. We're not worried about the New York Post because we already know that a handful of billionaires control the media and the papers and the cable news. But let Mamdani win be a wake-up call to the Republicans and Democrats that cater to these rich corporations while making every regular working person poor. There is health care.
All right, and Paulette, I'm going to go to California. The governor, Gavin Newsom, addressing the microphone.
Well, good evening, everybody. And let me underscore, it's been a good evening for everybody, not just the Democratic Party. But what a night for the Democratic Party. A party that is in its ascendancy. A party that's on its toes, no longer on its heels. From coast to coast, sea to shining sea. But it was not just a victory tonight for the Democratic Party. It was a victory for the United States of America, for the people of this country and the principles that our founding fathers lived and died for. And so we're proud. We're proud here in California to be part of this narrative this evening. We're proud of the work that the people of the state of California did tonight to send a powerful message to an historic president. Donald Trump is an historic president. He is the most historically unpopular president in modern history. In every critical category, Donald Trump is underwater. He promised to make us healthier. He promised to make us wealthier. We're sicker and poorer. And he fundamentally understands that. Why else would he call Greg Abbott saying he's entitled to 5 seats? Why else is he trying to rig the midterm elections before one single vote is even cast? He understands his position at this moment in the United States of America. One thing he never counted on, though, was the state of California. Instead of agonizing over the state of our nation, we organized in an unprecedented way in a 90-day sprint. People from all over the United States of America contributed their voices and their support for this initiative. We stood tall and we stood firm in response to Donald Trump's recklessness. And tonight, after poking the bear, this bear roared with an unprecedented turnout in a special election with an extraordinary result. None of us, however, are naive. This is a pattern. This is a practice. Donald Trump's efforts to rig the midterm election continue to this day. And I'll reinforce that in just a moment. You're seeing him take action all across this country, not just in Texas. You saw what they were successful able to do in Missouri, what they did in North Carolina, what they're trying to do in Indiana, and inevitably in Florida. They are not screwing around. In June of this year, we saw 4,000 National Guard federalized in the state of California. We saw 700 active duty Marines not sent overseas, but sent to the second largest city in the United States of America to militarize our streets. We said in June this was a preview of things to come. What more evidence do you need than what happened in Washington, D.C., what's happening up in Portland, cities like Chicago? When we kicked off this campaign, Just 90 or so days ago in Little Tokyo, in Southern California, in LA, at the Democracy Center, Donald Trump sent Greg Bovino. He sent his private police force that increasingly appears to have taken an oath of office to Donald Trump, not to the Constitution of the United States. He sent them to our kickoff rally to chill free expression, to chill free speech, to intimidate people from participating. Just today, in Los Angeles, Donald Trump called up the Border Patrol, sent them to Dodger Stadium, and threw a fastball at free speech, right at the head, free expression, to suppress the vote in America's second largest city. Just did that today. People in tactical gears sent out to intimidate a community that is already on edge. But you see, as we speak, people are still in line. People waiting up 3 hours to cast their vote, to send a message to Donald Trump. No crowns, no thrones, no kings. That's what this victory represents. It's a victory for the people of the state of California and the United States of America. And this is a victory that's punctuated with a sober reminder that it's not just the actions that Donald Trump has taken to federalize our guard, to begin the process of militarizing American cities, to intimidate free expression and speech by utilizing ICE and Border Patrol in American cities. But he also announced today, right when polls were opening, that this election was rigged. That this election was rigged. Of course, those are familiar words. It's exactly what Donald Trump said after January 6th, that day of love, where he tried to light democracy on fire. He tried to wreck this country, and he called in to the Secretary of State in Georgia, calling up for 11,000, 12,000 votes, just like he called Greg Abbott, saying he's entitled to those 5 seats. He said this election was rigged, and he's moving to look for criminal prosecution and investigations at the Department of Justice. He is not screwing around. So tonight, I'm proud, but I'm very mindful and sober of the moment we are living in. Donald Trump does not believe in fair and free elections. Period and full stop. This is not complicated, and it's self-evident to anyone paying attention. You start to stack up all of these actions that continue to this moment and will continue in moments to come. If you think I'm exaggerating, consider his announcement just a few weeks ago to send rapid response teams all across the United States, in all 50 states, tens of thousands of members of the military prepared for urban deployment. A preview of things to come. But back to this state. Our state of mind was resolute. Our state of mind was resolved to stand firm and to stand tall, to not be intimidated, to not be humiliated, to not fall prey to cynicism, to not fall prey to fear and the anxiety of someone that believes in only one thing, shock and awe, to intimidate and exhaust us. But we're seeing all across this country, 7 million people strong, standing up, not just for themselves,